Next, I'm going to go through the process of building up the database interface. First, I want to go to my library and find the MD file, and we're going to retrieve the XML connector. We're going to drag that out and deposit it somewhere in the scene. You don't bury it underneath something and can't find it. It won't render at runtime. You'll never see it, but just out of convenience, it's good to put off to the edge. Now, the next thing, which I've already done, that should be considered is the dimensions and size. So if I go to the modify document, I've already set this file up to be the dimensions that would fit in the host interface. And you want to do this before you do any composing so that you don't have to come back and correct this problem later. Although it's not fait accompli, once done here, if you need to, you could come back and resize things if the database has been set up and all wired together and is functioning. It still can be moved around. The repositioning for graphic composition of any of the components will not cause them to fail. Next, I'm going to select the XML connector, and I'm going to look inside the property inspector, and I want to give this a name. And I've given this the name of XCMD, and just to mimic the same name I used over here in the MD file. And there's no reason that you have to use the same name, that's just the name I chose. I also want to be certain that the URL has been written in here so that the XML connector knows what file to go find and use for the database. And of course, the md.xml is the name of the file that we're using. Ultimately, if you place your final executable interface file outside of a directory where the bulk of the material is located, you're going to have to include additional path information here. So it might be the directory name /md.xml. This will be a receiving file, so it's going to be taking, the connector is going to go out to the XML database and receive information from it. So this also has to be set at this location. And to get the XML connector to work, we need to be certain that there's an action script here in the main timeline that triggers it. And if I bring that up, it is simply the name of the connector, which we gave the name XCMD, with the dot, trigger, close parentheses, and semicolon. Next, I'm going to go to my components, and I'm going to pull out the combo box, which we'll take advantage of. We're going to find the loader, and I'm also going to find the text area. All of these items can be resized and positioned on the stage. They're smart. So you'll notice that the pull down handle here for the combo box does not distort as we resize this stuff. And you should absolutely take into consideration the resolution of the content. While it's possible to have content resized on the fly, you can make your file work much more efficiently if you give this a specific dimension that matches up with a specific dimension of the content that's being placed inside. So if we have this selected, of course, we can come over to the property inspector and we can either scrub or type in some absolute value that we want this to be. Next, I'm going to give all three of these items a name, and the combo box I'm going to give the name CB capital NAME. I'm going to give the text area name type, and finally I'm going to give my loader the name image. All of these names correspond to tags that were inside the XML database. Next, I'm going to select the XML connector, and I'm going to go to the component inspector. You can find this in the window pull down. When I bring up the component inspector, I'm going to go down to the results location of schema, and you'll see there's a tab here on the far right. Import a schema from a sample XML file, and we'll trace ourselves down to the XML file in question, and you'll notice that it populates the schema in here, letting us see instantly what's inside that XML file in terms of the structure. We have, if you recall, the My Data tag that surrounds the entire file, and then there's an array, a series of projects that are located within the My Data object. Once I've done that, I'm going to proceed by binding the XML connector to each of these components inside the file. The XML connector will then grab data from the XML file and parse it so that it can fill these three fields. If I go to the Bindings tab inside the connector, I'm going to click on plus, and the first component here that I'm going to link up to the XML connector will be the combo box. And that's going to handle the array of all of the various projects that will be inside the list here. So I'll go ahead and select that. Click OK, and then for this particular item we're going to have out as a direction. It will be bound to the combo box, and this will be the data provider to the rest of the database, graphical database that we see here displayed. So it's combo box data provider. Proceed down below that to formatter. Now when we bring in the full array, it grabs all of the data, so we have to be certain that it's just going to find the names inside those data sets and use only the names in our pull down menu. So we're going to use the formatter here to be certain that's the case. So we use rearrange fields for formatting, and then we want to tell specifically that what we want to see in here is the label's name, and this is case sensitive and space sensitive, so leave no extra space in here. It's the one unique place that Flash is intolerant of extra space. So as a quick test to see if this is wired up to the database and then again to the combo box, I'm going to go to Control Test Movie in Flash Professional, and we should find here that the pull down menu is working and has been populated by the list of projects inside our XML database. What I need to do next is cause the selection from this list then to send instructions to these other components on the stage and have them fill in a way that's associated with whatever's been selected. So I'll go back to my Bindings tab, and I'm going to click plus again, and this time what I'm going to do is grab the loader down here for image, and I'll pull down, and we have our string inside our database for image, which if you recall has a path to a resource. And with that selected, I'm going to come down and click on out, and we're going to bind this to the loader for image, and this is a string, so we'll go ahead and click OK, and then there is no formatter, and the index for this will be the combo box, and by default this is turned on a constant value. We want to turn that off, and we're going to select combo box and the selected index. So what this means is when somebody pulls down, the index that's actually picked is assigned to in order from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. to the items in the list. By default, this is set to 0. We wouldn't be able to get any changes, then they would all be the same. So we want to turn that off and make sure this is combo box and selected index. We'll do this once again for the text area, and for this we're going to have the type, and it will also be out, and it will be bound to the text area. It's also a string, and there is no formatting, and once again this needs to be the combo box with the selected index. So if we go ahead and test this now by going to Control Test Movie in Flash Professional, we'll see that we have our list, but neither of our fields have been populated, and that's because nothing's really been selected yet. And if I come down and select, you'll see that yes, now red cone's been selected and the type is cone, and we have our red placeholder image. Now we need to adjust something here in the pull down menu so that before we even make a selection, the item that's at the top of the list has already instructed these fields and others that might be on the stage to be populated in a way that fits with the subject. And to make that adjustment, we're going to go ahead and select the combo box, and we're going to go to the Schema tab, and inside there we're going to make sure that the selected index number is highlighted. We'll scroll down below until we find the default value, and we want to type in 0 for the default value. 0 is the first item in the list, which is blue box, and since that is pre-selected, it will also communicate to all of the other components on the stage to also be filled with the first item. And if we go ahead and test this now, we should see that not only is our menu populated, but you see that our first item, blue box, is already in place.